We are trying to find the range of this function given we've already got this domain. So again, the domain is the one on the x-axis. So this is our domain. And we say, hey, it can only be between -4 and 2. We're going to exclude everything else. The range on the other end is the y, the mountain range. Okay, so we don't know what this thing looks like, but what we do know is that it's going to have to cross these points, so -4 and 2. So if you find the points wherever they may be, then you kind of get a sense for it. Also, if we have another function, that's the basic one of our quadratic, and that's just equal to x squared, right? I'll say that's blue. That will do something like this. Okay, so we can kind of tell roughly where the turning point is going to happen because there's an equation for it that you might need to memorize. And in the last topic of your course, you'll figure out why this equation comes about. So we've got the standard form for our quadratic here. This is our standard dude. And what we're saying is that in this case, a is equal to -6, b is equal to -3, and c is equal to -2. So because it's got a minus sign in front of the a, right? What that means is that if we have, again, our other function, f of x being just equal to -x squared, it flips it. So that's important for the signs, okay? And the equation that we need to find the turning point when it's not a simple one is that the x turning point is equal to 2a minus b. All right? So it's equal to 2a minus b. Sorry, minus b divided by 2a. And then if we put those values in, we can solve for it. So -6 to, apologies, it's actually meant to be a -3. And 2a minus 6. So we can say that's 3 divided by 2 times by 6. And that's 6 as really, we can draw it as a 3 times a 2. And so the 3's can be cancelled out. And what we're left with is something a little nicer, that -1/4. Okay, that's what it's equal to. Now, that does fall in this range, sorry, in this domain here. So we've got to not only think about, if it's something else that does this, we only need these points. But our guy is kind of falling in here like this. So we need to know what that point is. So let's substitute it back in and find out what the value of y is at the turning point. Okay, so I'll just move this one out of the way. So the y for the turning point is equal to -6 squared -3 and -2 if memory serves me well. Yep, -2 there. So now we need to expand this. So this one is -1 times -1, okay, and then 4 times 4 down the bottom there. So -1 times -1, happily enough, is just 1. And 4 times 4 is 16. Okay, but might be worthwhile just leaving that as 4 times by 4 because you can see that you can later on divide by 2 there. So we can have it as 2 times by 2 times by 4. And that 6 we can see is 3 times by 2. So we can cancel out one of those guys. And when we do that, what we're left with is just 2 times by 4, which hopefully you can see is just 8. And they're timesing each other. So you can see that it's the 3 at the top. All right, that one's done. And now we will add that minus 3 times minus 1, all divided by 4. We can see that actually that's just equal to 3. Okay, so this is kind of confusing. Now to add these guys, so what we're going to do is basically try and get everything to the denominator, the highest one here. And we can see that 8 is the highest one. So we need to times that 1 by 2, times that 1 by 8. And what we do to the bottom, we have to do to the top. And so finally, after lots of manipulation, we can say that this one is equal to 3 plus 6 minus 16. And that is equal to 9 minus 16. So hopefully you can see that our final value is going to be minus 5 on 8. Okay, so we also need to figure out these other components, right? We figured out that this top bit here happens at 1/4 and minus 5 on 8. But we haven't quite figured out what this value is and this value is. So let's substitute it in to find out the values. So what's this left one? Well, that would be when W is equal to minus 4. Okay, and when that happens, we get minus 6, minus 4 squared, minus 3, all of this. And so minus 4 times minus 4 is 16. Minus 3 times minus 4 is 12. Minus 2. Let's just focus in on these guys because it's easier. Those ones would just say 12 minus 2 is 10. And then let us figure out what 16 times by minus 6 is. So we can do long multiplication. So 6 times by 6 is 36, plus 6 times by 10 is 60. So that is equal to 96. And we can just plus the 10 here to say it's equal to negative 86. Okay, so that's definitely the lower bound of this range. Okay, we can see that that's the lower bound, but the upper bound is no longer this one here because we figured out there was a turning point that went higher. Okay, so you don't really need to figure out this one, but let's say you didn't have the graph and you had to figure that out. So that would be positive 2. And this math here is a little bit easier. Okay, 2 times by 2 is 4. And minus 6 minus 2 is 8. And then 4 times by 6 is 24. And if we add these up, we get minus 32. So in the end, we've got all these values here. Minus 86, minus 32, and then this value here. So we can see that really the lower bound is going to be that negative 86 and the upper bound is going to be here. So our final equation, or the final thing that we would write to get full marks, would be that our range is an element of all real values and that it is between negative 86 and minus 5 on 8. There we go.